representing legislative advocacy over in, or waiting to, I'm on the list to testify in the House today for the open carry and campus carry that is going to be heard in the House. As you heard, it was passed in the Senate last night. So that's exciting, and I encourage you all, while you're here, to take some time to visit some of the committee rooms and see how that process goes. Raise your hand if you've ever testified in either the Texas House or Senate. Good. Raise your hand if you've ever gone to a committee meeting but not testified. So you're just hanging out. All right, so next time you got to put your name on the list to testify. I have 15 minutes to explain this process, and so I'm going to be enthusiastically brief, and certainly we can go back at any time and you can ask me, and I'm going to give you lots of resources to talk about it, because you guys are vets for the most part. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about why it's important and some of the newer tools to do it. So I have, if you'll click it, oh, sorry, do I have a...
You want one?
Okay, sure. It doesn't matter. All right, good. I have a quote for you. Why do I give you this? Because I think it's important. If you've ever heard me talk, I love to ask people when you think this was written. No morn ever dawned more favorable than ours did, and no day was ever more clouded than the present. Wisdom and good examples are necessary at this time to rescue the political machine from the impending storm. That could have been in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, but it wasn't. David, if you'll click it. Anybody want to guess? Yep. So in other words, politics has always been kind of a messy thing, right? It has always been an impending storm. There's never perfection, and we are never done. And as long as we can embrace that and understand that, it goes a long way to help keep us from getting frustrated, because we cannot get burned out. Yes? Are you with me? What happens if we get burned out? What happens if we give up?
We lose.
They win. It's as plain as that. You gonna kick it to your kids and your grandkids? Or is it our job to make the difference? So I say that because who are the good examples? I'm looking at them right here in this room. Many people think to testify before a committee or to go talk to the House or the Senate, you have to be an expert. Well, guess what? You are an expert. You're an expert at being a Texan. You're a taxpayer. You are a family member. You are somebody involved and engaged in your communities. We all wear lots of hats, and that makes us experts. And it's important that we remember that when we go testify. All right, so here, are you ready? In one slide, here's a brief look at how bills are made into law. Everybody good? All right, I'll say I got it. Don't you love flowcharts? I didn't make that up, but I think it's brilliant. So obviously, you guys have all seen the I'm Just a Bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yes? You remember that? So my kids were learning about conjunctions at school, and she came and she said, Mom, there's a coolest thing called Schoolhouse Rock. I was like, really? That was my generation. So I played for her, I'm Just a Bill sitting on Capitol Hill. But basically the process, you understand, if it begins in the House, it goes through committees. It has to pass out of the committee before it goes to the floor. And the process has to happen on both sides. Once it goes through the House, it'll go to the Senate or vice versa. So to become a law is a difficult process, and that's good, yes? We are the party of less laws. We want it to be hard for a bill to become a law, and ultimately it has to be enrolled and signed by the government. Okay, so here's how you look it up. This is to make it simple. That was the hard way. You find a little tool called Texas Legislature Online. Raise your hand if you've ever played with TLO. The most fantastic website to follow what's going on. It's Capitol, with an O, y'all, Capitol.state.tx.us. And what you can do with TLO is research a bill by topic. You can also research it by the number. You can save a bill list of your very own so that it will send you updates as to what is going on. This will walk you through absolutely every step of the process, from the committee hearings to when it's being passed on the House and the order in which it's being heard. You can also find, I'm sorry if that's too small to see, you may find a list of all the committees, all the members of the committees and the chairman, all their contact information. In other words, no excuses, right? This is one-stop shopping and no excuses. So Capitol.state.tx.us. Oh, and look, there's also a section that how a bill becomes a law, so you can go and read more about it too. So here is what you need to know for committees. Why are committees so important? Why is that the most important part of the process for legislative advocacy? Anybody? Do what?
Where it begins.
Where it begins, and also where we can have direct input. Now, of course, you can have input every step of the way because this is our house, right? This is our Capitol. These are our offices. They work for us, and we appreciate that, and we respect that, and they should listen to us in every step of the process. But at the committee hearings, we're actually invited to come in and to make our voice heard, 3 minutes at a time. So be brief, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So here's the committees. And again, I want to point this out to you. If you already know about this, then help somebody who doesn't yet. My TLO, you may save these and it sends alerts to your mailbox. It could not be easier. All right, this is a screenshot from the House of Representatives, their website. You see a schedule right there, a broadcast schedule. If you can't make it to the House to testify, you can watch it online. You can also watch it archived if you can't see it in real time. But that's a pretty neat way to see what's going on and to follow things. And they've also got the list of bills and the capital schedule and the committee schedule. So you'll see all that. That's House of Representatives. And that's house.state.tx.us. Or just go to Bing and type it in. And here's a screenshot again from the Senate. Same thing. You'll see the live broadcasts. And there's also the archives. So you can go back and you can look it up for research purposes. All right, so again, that's capital.state.tx.us. That is Texas Legislature Online. And as a side note, for federal legislation, does anybody know what the site is, the comparable one for federal?
houseandsenate.gov.
Houseandsenate.gov, but the research arm is Thomas. That's exactly right. You would know, wouldn't you, Dion? Thomas.loc.gov. It is exactly the same, but it follows the federal legislation. So it's thomas.loc for Library of Congress.gov. There's also Twitter. Raise your hand if you Twitter. Okay, somewhere out there, somebody tell Michelle Samuelson that I put a Twitter slide in my presentation because I'll get bonus points. So Texas House of Representatives is on Twitter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot find Texas Senate on Twitter. I've put that out, I've tried to find it. I don't know for sure that they have a page. But if you will like them on Twitter, if you follow them on Twitter, all the things as they come up and the committee hearings and the things that are being passed out will appear right there in your Twitter feed. So that's pretty handy too. Oh, and look, guess what? Who else can you follow on Twitter? The RPT, that's exactly right, with more updates. Look, you have right there, this was screen captured 12 minutes ago. So Kim Paxton was here talking about at the legislative day. So there's lots of up-to-the-minute updates of what's going on and who's appearing at the committee hearings. So real quickly, when you communicate with your state legislatures, here's a couple tips I wanted to give you for testifying. Many hearings begin in the morning like it did today at 9 o'clock, and then they had to go into session at 10. So you have to be patient. That's the #1 rule if you're going to testify. I see some heads nodding. What's the latest anybody's ever been here testifying on a bill? 2?
2 in the morning.
2 in the morning? Do I have later than 2? What was it?
The voter ID.
Voter ID? I seem to remember.
Yeah.
8 o'clock next morning.
The next morning.
Yeah.
Right, when you walk in, did anybody see the no camping equipment sign at the, I looked at that and thought, really? But there are days. Remember, politics, it's a messy process. So they begin in the morning, they break for session, they resume. They're not necessarily heard in the order in which they're posted, which is another reason to follow those websites very, very closely. Another thing I would recommend, if it is an issue-based bill, to go to the advocacy group for that issue because they're going to be watching it very closely and they will help you know when to be there and maybe help you make arrangements to be there. So in the House, you're going to fill out the form online at the kiosks in the hall. There isn't the paper form anymore. You do not have to testify. You can go in support. You can indicate your support, and those are counted. So even if you're uncomfortable speaking, it's very important to still go and show up because they know the number of people who are there. Of course, if you want to testify, that's even better. And that's 3 minutes. So here, keep testimony short and concise. Look at that next sentence. Don't repeat what the person in front of you just said. Now that's hard when we prepare and we have our speech and we're proud of it, and then the guy in front of you says it, right? But we need to respect the committee members' time and their efforts, and they're listening to all this over and over and over. So obviously, be short and concise, but what is the most important thing? Be respectful. When you go and you testify, yes, you're representing yourself, but you're also representing that issue. And you're representing the cause, and you're representing all of us conservatives who believe in those issues. So be respectful. Please. I'll put it there. right, be prepared to change the testimony on the fly. Why is that? Well, sometimes there are committee substitutes that come in and things are changed at the last minute, so you need to pay attention to what's going on. Again, that's why it's helpful to kind of either plug in with RPT or plug in with an advocacy group to help follow that so that you can be more up to date with those changes. Okay, I'm going to skip that. All right, so for the Senate, it's a little bit different. You do fill out the witness cards. You're called up in a panel. Actually, today, when I was in that House committee, they were bringing them up in panels. Then in the Senate, that's even more so in groups of 3 or 4. And they usually are more willing to ask questions, depending on how late in the day. But you do need to be prepared to answer a question. If you're going to say something out there, you need to be prepared to back it up. Okay, so real quickly, personal visits have the most impact. Raise your hand if since this session began you visited your legislator. I'm so impressed. You guys get an A. All right. Don't forget, though, about the district offices. Raise your hand if you visited them here in Austin. What about the district? Why is the district office important?
Because it shows you're in their community.
It shows you're in their community. And you know what else? The people who work in that district office, they live where you live. They don't live in the Beltway, as it were, the Austin Beltway. They live where you live in your town and are a lot more willing to sit down and take the time to do it. So don't forget about the district offices. Remember, though, they're one-person operations a lot of time, and so you need to be respectful of their time. Remember, you are a resource. You are an expert. You have every right and every reason and every responsibility to be here and to stand up for these issues. So offer yourself as a resource and always follow up with the letter summarizing what you discussed. Okay. I love this quote because I think it's so germane to what we're doing all the time. This is our time. Right now. We cannot put this off. 2016 has already started. But before that, we talked about elections and working for our candidates. This is what's happening now. This is 2015, and this is the 84th legislature, and they need to know what's important to us. As the RPT, we passed a platform at our convention, overwhelmingly passed with more than 8,000 people there. We also passed in December in the State Republican Executive Committee a set of legislative priorities, and those are what we said as a group we want to focus on in this, one being the Second Amendment issues. So we take those and we're able to present those to the legislature and say, this is what's important to the Republican Party of Texas, and this is the moment that we want to get that done. So I encourage you to not put it off, to not wait another day, and to get involved in the degree that you can. Because why? Because he who feared he wouldn't succeed never got started. I love that quote. He who feared he would not succeed sat still. But that's not what we're about. As Republicans, as conservatives, as Texans, we don't sit still. We don't wait for somebody else to do it. We take the action to do it. I want to tell you real quick about something that's going to come up, and if you're not signed up in the RPT email list, I would encourage you to go do that. Every week we are going to, or most every week, maybe bi-weekly, we're going to start sending out legislative reports. What's going on in the Capitol, how your RPT is following up on those legislative priorities that we set. I'm very, very excited about that because it's important that you, the grassroots, understand what it is that we're doing, and to the extent that we can provide talking points and be a resource on those issues, that is what we're here to do. So here's my contact information. Amy Clark for RPT Vice-Chair is my Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, Amy M. Clark TX, and I encourage you to come to me if you need help with messaging. Messaging is my passion. How do we stand up and articulate what it is that we believe? So I would be happy to come, and I do trainings with groups and that kind of thing. But please take the time to hook up with TLO and with the House of Representatives on Twitter, so that you can have a better opportunity to follow what's going on. And then use social media? Sometimes it is pretty moody. Use social media to push out that information, because it's great if we know it, it's even better if other people know it. So, thank you so much for your time. If anybody doesn't have any questions, they do. We are in committee, if you're interested, after the House reconvenes, it is, John, are you here? E2,
The gun bill?
yes.
014.
There, thank you. E20102014, if anybody's interested. They also have an overflow room, so you can just go and sit and watch it on the big screen, but it's pretty interesting. Thank you guys, appreciate it.